Hello, friends. Welcome to story time today. As you grow older, it is very important to learn about what values are, like love, hope, kindness, and many more. Good values help you live in the best way every day and help you know what is right and wrong. The stories I will read today will talk about these three values, which you will learn from hearing what the stories are about. Our first story has to do with the value of kindness. It is a story about unicorns. Unicorns are beautiful, magical creatures that have the body of a horse with a spiral horn that grows out of their forehead. They are beautiful, peaceful, and strong. But in this story, other creatures in the forest were not kind to the unicorn, so it made the unicorn very sad. The name of our story is called The Enchanted Unicorn, and the author who wrote this book is Kathy Billingslea Smith. Far, far away, beyond 2 oceans and 3 continents, lay a tiny land called Elijah. It was so small it could not be found on maps, but it was a beautiful country of rolling hills, deep woods, and sparkling lakes. Animal families of every kind and color lived together in the woods of Elijah, and one tiny unicorn. Now, some people will tell you that unicorns do not really exist, but in this story, they do. So this is where they lived. The unicorn of our story was as white and fleecy as an April cloud, with long golden tresses for her mane and tail, a horn of purest gold, and eyes that gleam like the stars. Her name, in fact, was Starlight. Starlight had no family of her own and was often very lonely. Though she was kind and friendly to all the other animals, many of them were jealous of her beauty and would say things to hurt her feelings. She's very beautiful. You may have a horn, said the zebras, but we are fancier with our fine black stripes. You are only gold and white, squawked the parrots. Look at us with our many colors. We are more splendid than the rainbow. Do not think you are so special, growled the lions. We are the kings of the beasts. We are stronger and more powerful than you will ever be. You are too small, said the giraffes, looking down their long necks at Starlight. You are too slow, cried the antelopes as they raced by. As unicorns will, Starlight forgave them their cruelty, but each day she grew sadder and lonelier. At night, she would often cry herself to sleep. Finally, one day, she decided to leave Elijah and look for another place to live. So that's kind of sad that because she wasn't being treated properly, that she had to go somewhere else. Travel west through the deep forest for 2 days until you come to the great meadow, said the wise owl. You will be happier there. Starlight walked through the forest until her legs ached. The overhanging branches pulled at her mane. Thistle and bramble scratched her tiny legs. Perhaps it was just the rustling of leaves, but a voice seemed to say, Don't leave, Elijah. Stay, we need you. So there she goes through that forest. Starlight stumbled along, very tired. Just when she was ready to give up and turn back, the darkness of the forest turned to sunshine. and she found herself in a beautiful meadow carpeted with flowers. And there, dancing and prancing among the flowers, were a dozen other unicorns, all gold and white like starlight. She could hardly believe her eyes. The unicorns gathered around Starlight and welcomed her warmly. "You've had a difficult journey," said one. "Come rest and share some food with us, sister," said another. For the first time in her life, Starlight felt a sense of belonging. Each day brought new friendships and new pleasures. Starlight had never known such happiness. "Surely I will live here among my friends forever," she thought. But try as she might, Starlight could not forget Elijah and the animals who lived there. One evening, as she stood beneath the stars, Starlight thought to herself, "Oh, how I wish that everyone in Elijah could live together as happily and as peacefully as we do here." So that was her wish and her hope. She tossed her mane from side to side and lowered her golden horn until it touched the earth. As she raised her head, the dark sky seemed to open up, and stardust sprinkled down upon her. For a moment, Starlight shimmered like the very stars. Then slowly the light faded until all that remained was a glow, like fire in her eyes. She stood still and silent as a statue, then smiled a dazzling smile. The next morning, Starlight bid farewell to her brother and sister unicorns, then turned and trotted into the deep forest. This time she fairly flew through the tangle of trees and bushes that had once tried to stop her way. This time, the forest seemed to be guiding her, helping her along. "Hurry! Elijah needs you," the wind seemed to whisper. It seemed like only a moment before Starlight found herself back in Elijah. The animals all gathered around her, their eyes and words still full of jealousy and unkindness. Nothing seemed to have changed, but it had. Starlight simply looked at the animals, her eyes burning with the light of 1,000 stars. The animals stood as still as stone figures, gazing back at her. Then suddenly, they all broke into bright smiles. Smiles of kindness, smiles of concern, smiles of love. The air felt different, clearer, softer, warmer. And now, for the second time in her life, Starlight knew that she belonged. So friends, our second story is about the value of love. It will show you how those in the story were loving and kind to one another. So this story is called "Love is a Special Way of Feeling" by Joan Walsh Angland. Love is a special way of feeling. It is the safe way we feel when we sit on our mother's lap with her arms around us, tight and close. It is the good way we feel when we talk to someone and they want to listen and don't tell us to go away and be quiet. It is the happy way we feel when we save a bird that has been hurt. Or when we feed a cat that's lost. Because we know we're helping the cat. Or when we calm a frightened colt. A colt is a baby horse. When we see a lovely flower that no one else has noticed. You feel that love in your heart. Love starts in little ways. It may begin the day we first share our thoughts with someone else. Maybe you do that at school with your friends. Or help someone who needs us. The little child is sick, and she's bringing them something to eat to help them feel better. Or sometimes it begins because even without words, we understand how someone feels. So this little boy is sitting on a log all by himself, and he looks very sad. So the little girl went over and she played with him. So we can do that when we're on our playground at school. Love comes quietly, but you know when it is there, because suddenly you are not alone anymore, and there is no sadness inside you. Love is a happy feeling that stays inside your heart for the rest of your life. That was a very nice story, wasn't it? So our third story is about two frogs, and it's about the value of hope. Two frogs kept hoping they could get out of the problem they were having. So this book is called Two Frogs in Trouble. Big Frog snoozed near the pond as the sun warmed the great hump of his back. What a great day for doing nothing, he thought. But Little Frog bounced in and out of the sunshine as he hopped from toadstool to pond and back again. It was morning at the farm, and Little Frog was ready for fun. Wake up! Wake up, he called to Big Frog. It's time to play. Plip, 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 Little Frog took off for the pond. Big Frog's eyes were wide open now. Plop, plop, plop. He followed Little Frog, and together they crossed the pond into the barnyard, playing leapfrog and hide and seek along the way. They were having such fun that they forgot it was milking time at the barn. Plop, plip. They jumped straight into a pail of fresh milk. The sides of the pail were slippery and the frogs couldn't get out. Help, help, yelled Big Frog, but it was no use. No one came. They were stuck. Hoping somehow to escape, the two frogs paddled in circles around the milk pail. It was too slippery to get out of the pail. Big Frog began to swim slower and slower, and finally he said, "Why should we keep trying? I'm so tired." But Little Frog kept saying, keep on, cheered Little Frog as he splashed around the pail. You must have courage. Don't give up. And so they went on together for a while. 2 more hours passed and Little Frog's legs could hardly move. I can't swim another stroke, he moaned. He looks pretty sad. With every speck of strength in him, Little Frog cried out, "I won't give up." Bursting with courage, Little Frog felt tingling new life and energy come into his legs. He raced around and around the milk pail. Splash, splash, splash. For a long time, that was the only sound he heard. But then he heard a new sound. Glop, glop, glop. The white waves had turned to the thickest cream. Now it was even harder to swim, but Little Frog kept going with all of his might. Suddenly, he felt something under him. He looked down and saw his feet resting on a small hill. His swimming had turned the milk to butter. And with a great leap of joy, Little Frog jumped out of the pail to freedom. He is really happy. That night, as he hopped happily through the tall grass, Little Frog smiled up at the moon and thought, "Now I know it's true. There is always hope." Because he was so determined to get out of there, he kept having the hope that somehow he could do it. So he said at the end, "From now on, I will never, ever give up." And he never did. So friends, sometimes if you have a problem in your life that you don't think you know how to change it, just remember Little Frog and keep up the hope that somehow there's a way to do it and get out of your problem situation. All right, friends, have a great day, and we'll see you again.